welcome. Today we're just about to go and check out a video where we chat with South American expert Simon Edwards. Not just South America, specifically Colombia. He tells me about the best up and coming players coming out of that region. We also speak about the best youth players coming out of South America and especially Ecuador. Since that meeting, one player that he brought up, Johan Mina, who's made a move to Werder Bremen recently, and in my opinion, it's a great move. Let's see what he has to say about them, and let's see what he has to say about Mina.
We're going to start with this you tonight. You've got some gems that are coming out of Colombia, some gems that are playing in Europe, and you're going to hit me up with a report on this new talent coming out of Ecuador. Shoot.
Yeah, so I think Colombia and Ecuador have a great deal of talent. It's a couple of countries that have a lot of raw ability. Colombia's population is second in South America. There's a lot of big cities. So it's a country that I think has a lot of undervalued talent at the moment. And particularly players who are still playing in Colombia are available very cheaply with a lot of potential. So, I mean, going through two central defenders to start with, both are playing in Belgium with Genk. There's Carlos Cuesta, who's been compared to Baresi. He's not particularly tall, but he has a really good leap. Very intelligent central defender. Was captain of the Colombia U20 team. Reads the game very, very well. Has got a good amount of pace. He's just a really classy, composed defender. Was playing for Atlético Nacional in Colombia when they were in the Copa Libertadores. It's the biggest games on the continent, and looked very, very comfortable. Centre back, can play at full back as well if necessary. But a really classy, intelligent, athletic, ball-playing central defender who I think is looking very good. Alongside him at Genk in the same team is Lukomi, who again is slightly more powerful, more athletic, has more height, more strength. Already in the Colombian national team, he's probably third choice behind Jedi Mina of Everton and Davinson Sanchez of Tottenham. So he's a couple of years older, 21, 22 now, but a very good, intelligent, powerful central defender. So those are a couple I think are really worth looking at in terms of in Europe.
Would he be suited to more England then with the height and the additional height?
Yeah, I think Cuesta is very classy. I think Cuesta will be well suited to a team that plays a high defensive line and has a lot of possession. So maybe someone, again, I'm not saying he's Man City ready, but a team who plays the type of Manchester City where they'll dominate possession, they'll play a high line, it's all about concentration. I think Carlos Cuesta would be the perfect option for those sort of teams. Whereas Lukomi, I could see him playing either a team with a higher line, he has the pace to recover, or a team that sits further deeper in because he's got good height, good strength, and will be well suited to kind of the English lower leagues, the battle in the Premier League for some of the teams at the bottom half of the league.
So is there been any links to these guys, or is it how comes they're at Genk? Why is it just at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, Cuesta had interest from bigger teams. It was definitely a tactical decision. I know his agent decided that it would be the right move to get some European experience. You know, this is the captain of the Colombia U20 team, had a very impressive World Cup in the U20 World Cup. So he had offers, but I think it's very important to get minutes and the opportunity to play with a fellow countryman, the two of them in central defence, in a good league like Belgium, which I think also prepares players for a move to England, a move to France, without being that very top level. So I think it was more of a tactical move, but both of the players, and I think Lukomi is probably ready right now for a big step up. I think Cuesta maybe has a slightly higher ceiling, but I think people are concerned about his height. He's like 5'10", 5'11", but when you watch him play, it's never an issue.
Yeah.
But I think that may have put some clubs off. You look at the numbers, you go, nah, it's too small. But I think he does have a good leap. He does use his physicality well, and I think if you watch him play for 90 minutes, you wouldn't know he was shorter than someone else.
I mean, you've seen defenders in the past who have got over that height issue. The movement on the pitch, the reading of the game. If you've got a tall man next to you, generally you'll sit a little bit deeper in their sweep up. I mean, if he's that good, they can work around it. Did you say he also plays right back as well?
Yeah, he can play full back. I think he's best suited to central defence. He's also played defensive midfield as well before at Genk. So yeah, he can play a number of roles. But I think those two are interesting in terms of central defenders, but elsewhere in terms of Colombian players, and again, if you want real value, you get directly from Colombia.
Yeah.
And a guy who's, I mean, there's two in the Colombian league I'm particularly impressed by. One is Yaminton Campas. And he was a left back, then moved to play left wing, and is now a kind of box-to-box attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
Very, very quick, very technical, can play through balls, but is also really good at dribbling, runs all day, great at pressing. He's been playing in the Copa Libertadores with Tolima, so the Champions League in South American football. He scored 2 goals in his first 2 games, both long-range goals. And he is a great player, great technical ability, really quick, can battle, plays 1-2s, looks for the through balls, kind of has a bit of a playmaker poise about him, whereas he can also get his head down and just run the length of the pitch. He's Cuadrado meets James. If you're looking at Colombian players.
He's like a box-to-boxer. He's the dream midfielder.
Yeah, and just leads the press, takes ownership of the game. And this is a player who's 20, 21 years old, was playing as a fullback and is now the main man as an attacking midfielder, number 8, you could say. And the other guy I'd mention as well is Andres Colorado, who is, people have been comparing him to Patrick Vieira, a central midfielder, tall, athletic. He's got by far the best ball-winning stats in the Colombian league. This is his first year in the top flight. Played for a second division team last year and then was moved on loan to Deportivo Cali. So he's on loan as well, which means the price is nothing. I mean, $1 million will get him for you. So in terms of players who are an incredible value, and he's got such elegance. I think the Patrick Vieira comparison is a good one. But he is, just a beautiful player to watch in terms of his reading of the game, his athleticism, his long legs. I think he's an absolute bargain right now. And some team's going to pick him up and it's going to be a great signing, I think. The 2 players there are really interesting.
I'll definitely watch out for him, man. One question I do have off the back of that is, do you think with the current pandemic, do you feel like it will have an influence on the transfer fees? So potentially European teams could have something to gain in getting more money for their buck for players who are probably would be about £3-4 million more expensive, and then get them a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I know that players in South America, in Colombia, the prices are about 30% of what they were 6 months ago. Everyone needs to sell. Every club needs to sell to survive. Yeah. So there are teams that were looking very strong. I know America de Cali were looking in a really good place in terms of the side, back in the Libertadores after a number of years. And they're going to have to sell all of their best players. And they'll accept less than they would have usually. So, there's definitely a big opportunity. And I think a lot of clubs are now taking this chance to, they're not going to buy a Neymar. They're not going to buy a 100 million, 150 million pound player at the moment, because it doesn't make any sense. But they can use that money and invest in some good young talent and spend 5 or 6 million here, 2 million there, 3 million there, and bring in the best 16, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, get the deal done now when the clubs are desperate to sell. Yeah. And then that's a long-term investment. So I think that's definitely a trend at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because there's been a lot of talk about Talis Mango for Liverpool, and obviously Gabriel Veron been linked with Arsenal. And I was just thinking maybe now is the time to maybe follow up, because Gabriel Veron, you win, he's one of the best players in the tournament in the Under-17s World Cup. And that's one player you'll be able to say is an exceptional talent when it's trying to get a work permit. So the fact that you should be able to get him a lot cheaper, it may be an opportunity for clubs in Europe to pounce.
Yeah, no, definitely. And another player from the U17, the World Cup I really liked was Johan Mina of Ecuador.
He's a baller. He is a baller. Yeah. A baller.
Absolutely. I mean, people like to compare players to players, and for me, just Neymar, man, he just reminds me of Neymar with his, lean frame and his agility and his balance, his poise. Can skip past players, can play 1-2s, can score long-range goals, 6 goals in 8 games at the U17. Yeah, he's a very interesting player, and he's just turned 18 as well. So,
have they sorted out his contract issue? Because I heard there was a contract issue that he wouldn't sign and they wouldn't play him, and have they sorted that out?
Yeah, no. It looks as though he's going to be moving on fairly cheaply. As you say, Emelec weren't playing him in competitive games, trying to push him towards getting a contract extension. This can sometimes be the case with some of these very interesting talents. The same thing happened with Jesus Marimon, who was the big star in Colombia a few years ago, and he refused to sign a contract extension. They put him in the reserves, and then everyone forgot about him for a year. It can be, yeah. But I think Johan Mina is a player, yeah, definitely going to be off to Europe sooner rather than later. I think he's an exceptional player. Very quick, very agile, runs on his toes, lots of 1-2s, long-range goals.
Yeah,
definitely a player I like a lot.
With his height, I think they love his height and the fact that he's got that footwork as well. And he's very classy on the ball, very easy on the eye. So I think his destination is definitely going to be Europe. Yeah,
absolutely. And you just look in Ecuador as well. I think Ecuador and Colombia is such good value at the moment. The Ecuador U20 team did, very, very well. They won the South American U20 and then did very well at the World Cup. But there's a club in Ecuador called Independiente del Valle, which is just ridiculous. It's a club with a stadium the size of Barnet, for example, and a team full of young players. And they got to the Copa Libertadores final. They won the Copa Sudamericana. They got to the U20 Libertadores final this year. And this is a tiny, tiny club full of kids, but the kids they produce are incredible. There's so many there at the moment. I'm a big fan of Marco Angulo, 17, 18. He's got big afro, defense midfielder, runs the game. Very, very classy, very tidy on the ball. Just, tidies everything up and plays from the back. And alongside him, Moises Caicedo, who is more of a box-to-box midfielder, already scored in the Libertadores a spectacular long-range goal. Again, a very, very tidy, quick, athletic. A lot of these Ecuadorians are so comfortable on the ball. Very great athletes, just a lot of balance, a lot of poise, can defend, can attack. It's just a country that has so much potential for developing players.
Would you put down the influx of great talent coming through Ecuador then? Because it's not a place you'd expect top players to be coming from, but it seems like the new batch is starting to just churn out more talent.
Yeah, and again, it's specific regions that produce a huge number of players. Certain areas, in the Pacific coast, where they find a lot of their best talent. I think scouting. I think again, a lot of the players that are coming through are impressive athletes. If you go to Ecuador, people aren't generally massively tall in Quito or massively athletic, but there's certain regions of the country where you can find some of these really great athletes and they have the great technical ability as well. So I think scouting, giving these players a chance at an early age, and I think a focus on the youth level. But again, we'll have to see if it's just the generation coming through, but I do think they have the raw materials. One of the things in Colombia as well is the mix of populations, the fact that, for example, in Colombia, you go to the Pacific coast, you get your great athletes, your Jerry Minas, your Cuadrados. You go up to the Caribbean coast and it's more, expressive, skillful players. And then inland, you got Medellin, where you got Quinteros and James and these technical players. So I think that's something that helps as well, to have a great mix. You're not like Iceland, where everyone's 6'5" and powerful, or a country like Spain where a lot of the players are smaller. I think in Colombia and Ecuador, you have a real mix of different backgrounds, different cultures, and different physical builds as well.
Yes, that's good, man. I'll be making sure we keep an eye out for Ecuadorian superstars. It looks like they're starting to make moves on the Copa Libertadores, the Sudamericana. They're saying September. Are they saying?
Yeah, the idea is to get people back in training end of July, early August, and then see what's possible. There may be a situation where, for example, the games could be always played in Paraguay, in neutral venue in Paraguay. We'll have to see. Obviously, the challenge in South America is every country has a very different rate of COVID, and governments are responding very differently. Brazil is very lax, and now they're seeing the result of that. Other countries are very, very strict and are now dealing with the challenge of trying to loosen things up and risking the numbers increasing. And also you add on top of that the fact that in the last year, South America has been very turbulent, big protests in Chile and Ecuador, in Bolivia, in Colombia. So governments don't want to get this wrong and aren't going to take unnecessary risks. But of course, a lot of people are trying to see if there's ways that they can make this happen. And I think it's. I think the Libertadores will be played in the second half of the year. Now, whether that's September, August, or whether that's October, November, we'll have to see. But I think it's going to get played. We'll just have to see when countries can line up and where presidents feel that in a position to authorize this kind of thing.
Do you feel like the fact that Bundesliga started and the money that they're losing currently may be a factor in them sort of trying to push it through?
Yeah, I mean, the president of Colombia said specifically, like, we won't start our league until another league in South America has started.
Domino effect.
Yeah, so they don't want to be the outlier. They don't want to do something different, and then everything goes to, there's problems or whatever. So, I think that definitely has an influence. If European football starts, then the South American authorities will feel more comfortable pushing for that as well over here.
I think, like you said, the thing is the difference between maybe Uruguay and Brazil. Brazil's rate is very high at the moment compared to Uruguay's, and it's a bit like you're trying to get one country playing another, and you don't want to impact the situation in another country. So it's a tough one, but I mean, it's football. That's what we've got to remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was just about to say about the plan B, which the plan B is potentially putting it into another place. That seems like the better option for me. Two players I wanted to ask you about quickly. Andres Amaya. Do you know much about him? A young Colombian.
Yeah, he's off to Brazil. He's good. He's small. He plays from the right wing, usually cutting inside. Comparisons to Messi, I mean, everyone gets carried away.
I've seen too many of them recently. Thiago Almeida, I'm like, look, no one can. There's only one Messi. Come on.
Yeah, that's not a comparison I'm making, but he's a small, wide player who cuts inside. Very technical, very confident. Was relegated actually with Wheeler, but was kind of the standout man in terms of getting on the ball, making things happen. He's got a good amount of pace. Again, small but very technical, provides a goal threat, can play a through ball. Interesting to see in Brazil. Obviously, the wide players in Brazil, usually it's power, it's pace combined with skill. Mm-hmm. He's more of a, more poised, more of a playmaker coming in from wide positions. Does have the pace, but doesn't have the power. So we'll see how he does in Brazil. It's going to be a very interesting move, but it's a player with a lot of quality, a lot of intelligence, and a mature guy for someone who's still 18, 19 years old.
Yeah, well, maybe if Brazil's not his step, MLS, there's money, and it's an option. Last one, Jan Hurtado. I think he's just gone to Boca Juniors, isn't he?
Yeah, a player I like a lot. A target man, Venezuelan striker, very good at holding the ball up, was bullying all of the defenders at the U20 World Cup. He's got some pace. He's not hugely tall, but he uses his physicality well. Brings the ball down well. Yeah, a very good target man. A bit of Solomon Rondon about him. Similar kind of player. But yeah, a good player. He's got pace, he's got skill, and he's a very imposing physical presence who is smart, brings others into play, uses his body well, is very good, holding things up and working as a focal point striker.
Okay, thank you very much, Simon. Appreciate your time. I'd love to get you on a pod. Got a new show called The Transfer Exchange. Basically, we just look at young talent from around the world and any transfers, big transfers around everywhere, basically, but the big ones. Love to get your input at one point, so I'd love to get you on the show. But also, shout out your Twitter handles, your website, where everyone can find you, and I'll put them in the description as well.
Okay, so on Twitter at Simon Edwards SAF. And you can find me on Twitter. I do stuff for World Football Index. We do podcasts on South American football. You can check it all out over there.
Cool. Thank you very much, Simon.